experiences, and the first is Crystal Holmes-Smith.
Morocco. Okay. So my experience in Rwanda was filled with many joyous times, times of distress, and many moments of confliction. A large part of this trip was, if I can borrow from the words of Drew, because he says it all the time, heart stretching, which is a big deal for me because I'm usually the type to, I don't like to express or even deal with my emotions. But there were many moments in this trip that made it sort of impossible not to do so. So not only did I learn to let myself feel, but through the large variety of emotions that these situations evoke, I was able to build what I'd like to call emotional stamina. As far as emotions go, this trip was very up and down. And today, I'd like to take you on that journey, a journey of which I can only think to describe as an emotional roller coaster. Genocide Memorial, which taught us about the genocide that took place in 1994. The Rwandan genocide, which was backed by the hatred of people simply because of their social economic status, resulted in over 1 million deaths. In short, Rwanda was comprised of 3 ethnic groups, the Hutu, the Tutsi, and the Twa. And the genocide was the mass killing of the Tutsi people and Hutu moderates by Hutu extremists. The Hutu extremists blamed the Tutsi for the country's growing economic and political problems. And the government, which was Hutu-led, was able to use propaganda and play on previous tensions between the groups to convince the Hutu people that they needed to kill all of the Tutsis. The Tutsis suffered horrendous deaths. Many were shot to death. Many were hit over and over with machetes until they died. Babies were thrown against the wall. Those who did survive lost many family members and friends.
What the heck did I get myself into? Darn well, City Girl. First of all, why am I doing this? Second of all, I should have gotten a walking stick.
The guides offered us walking sticks, but we didn't know what we were up for, so we didn't take them. But it's actually a lot harder than it looks. The video caught the easy part. We were slipping, sliding, falling. Oh.
I told Lily yesterday because it so happened that I separated from the group because I was doing my time. And I got to that room and I was alone. Like the group was gone and there was nobody else there. So as soon as I walked in, I was like completely shocked and like I had the urge to like reach for someone, like to grab them and like give them that look of like understanding and like comforting. But it was all there. And so shaking.
Physically? Emotions manifest themselves in the bodies, right? It's good for us to know a story. Someone was saying they were short of breath.
Yeah.
Someone told me that it was hard to breathe.
And it felt like you were, I think most some of it was like kind of underground too, a little bit. It felt like that. Like, so there was that real feeling of like, that physically affected your emotions and your breathing, like down, knowing you were kind of underground. And I shared the exchange with Crystal, and I felt bad that I wasn't there with her to be there. But when I went through it, I was really fortunate to have Dan with me, and I just like, the immediate shock of realizing what's in that room with you, just, I thought I was in class. I just started crying and I was confused. The main word I can use right now is just confusion of why and how could you do this?
In the midst of dealing with an influx of emotions, we had to be ready to teach or perform at a moment's notice. We had to always be present. So this meant that even if we didn't have enough time to process the things that we were experiencing or the way we was feeling, we had to somehow put that aside and be ready to work.
So, I'm going to read all five, and then we're going to vote. We can't keep all five. We have to get it down from 5 to 1. So, the first one. Students will collaborate in groups to help development leads to innovation. Collaboration happens when people share ideas. Hard work leads to discovery and critical thinking. The opportunity for creativity leads to new discovery. So from those 5, let's get it down to 2, and then we'll get it down to 1. So,
while assuring the security of the Rwandan Prime Minister, 10 Belgian commandos were surrounded by members of Forces Armies Rwandese, who ordered the commando to disarm in exchange for safe passage to a UN base. Instead of being taken to the UN base, the 10 commandos were brought to a military camp here at this site. On arrival, the commandos were attacked by 100 soldiers from the camp. Against this overwhelming force, the commandos took refuge in this building, and with 2 sidearms they had managed to conceal, resisted for several hours. They fought to their deaths while hoping for help that never came.
Peace to Rwanda. They gave him nothing. If you ever hear about shaking hands with the devil, this is a man who was saying there's atrocities going on here. He wasn't supported by the UN. They thought it would be very simple to bring him in, give him some experience, and nothing would happen. And obviously escalated to something much more. These are from the families, right? Yeah, from the children who lost their parents and fathers.
Yeah, this was an instance that was
Wow.
for me because this was the orphanage we stayed at for 3 days. And on one hand, you want to be sad because these children are here because they were abandoned and all sorts of things happened to them. But it's kind of hard to be because there's so much joy and happiness there. So it's like you just don't know how to feel.
많은 것들이 그거 잘 이루어지고.
American scientists, you know, you can just discover is under this surface and
then take it.
yeah, no, and then you can do whatever you want from that thing. And then is that their process they've been through for even their kids, who to young men are married now to these ladies or the other way around. And is asking why, with all your brains and whatever, why don't you try that process and make it work?
So I wanted to pause the video again to explain a little bit. And he's basically saying that their process of reconciliation that they have, it's working. And in particular with their prisoners are being treated with forgiveness and like human beings and being made to be reintegrated into society. And rather than it being about them being punished or the Tutsis receiving revenge, it's about reconciliation and them rebuilding their community. And then he's saying, if America is such this powerful and intelligent nation, why can't we figure out something so simple? So that comment, along with another comment from one of the prisoners, which was that he believed that there was not even one poor person in America, inspired me to write this poem, which I called America the Beautiful, But Do They Know? And I actually wrote this poem as soon as we got on the bus on the way home. And when I say home, I mean the hostel that we were staying at. But on the way home from the prison camp, it was as if I just got to a point where I just couldn't keep everything in anymore and I needed to let it out. And since I'm much more comfortable with writing than I am with speaking, it happened to take the form of poetry, which I'd like to share with you. America the Beautiful, but do they know that all of America's wealth is held by only 10% of the nation? Do they know that I walk by homeless people who lay outside on the ground, even on cold winter nights? Or that I watch people walk from cart to cart on the trains in New York City to beg for money to buy food? Do they know that we have 25% of all the world's prisoners and we punish them rather than offer rehabilitation? Do they know that we have so much crime because many people are angry? Do they know that although we are supposed to be a melting pot, racism and prejudice still exists? Do they know that before any interview or new position I take on, I wonder if the color of my skin will have an impact on how I am judged or how people perceive me? Or that even when I am complimented, for example, on how well I speak or how well I write, I wonder if they genuinely see a girl who is more advanced than the rest of her peers, or if it's out of shock because I act differently from the way those people normally act. Do they know that in some places in the US, some people walk past each other without a smile or a wave, and if you do try to talk to them, there's a chance you'll just receive an attitude in response? Do they know that children bully each other in schools because they look differently, value different things, or just to make themselves look good? And do they know that sometimes we have adults who notice and do nothing about it? Do they know that some of us are impatient, we move too fast, and barely appreciate the finer things in life? Do they know that many Americans think that America is as great as they think it is, and for that reason, they show no compassion or even concern for the rest of the world? Do they know that America has much to learn, that maybe America should be more like them? This was another instance of conflicting emotions, because at this point, I didn't know how I felt about dancing with the prisoners, if I should dance with them, and there were just many things running through my mind. And some of those things are shown here. exactly why it was important for me to have this experience. And it reads, mastering the power of your emotions is the single most important thing that will bring you confidence, joy, and fulfillment beyond belief. Start today. And thanks, Bruce, for the photos. But the one bad one, I took it, not Bruce.
Big hand for Crystal. Well, if you're anything like me, you're exceptionally proud right now. Our students are remarkable. Crystal's remarkable, and it's really representative, I think, of what the best Buffalo State has to offer. They stretch me as much as Rwanda stretches them. So it's the single greatest honor of my teaching career to watch Rwanda through our students' eyes. It's a gift. Summer 17 is next, FYI. Does anybody, while Ashanti sets up, does anybody have any questions for Crystal? We have two more, if you can handle it. We have two more, but we do have an opportunity if you'd like to ask Crystal some questions. I should hand out Kleenex, I know. Happy story. Any questions for Crystal? It's alive.